just wave your hand. Come up. Okay. Did it feel early when you had to get up this morning? A little bit? Not at all? You didn't feel like it was an hour earlier than you should have had to get up? The problem is we all have these electronic phones now, and the time changes automatically. No one hardly anymore has to actually turn the clock forward so we forget. Okay, well, that's fine. If you have a watch, you have to adjust it. Anyway, so who remembers what we talked about 2 weeks ago? Judges, that's right. And we started in on the story of Samson, actually. Did you say Samson? Samson was big and strong. Now, before we go on, who has their passport? Okay, let me see this. Who got a passport last week? Okay. If you didn't get a passport last week, talk to me after church in the coffee hour today and we'll get one for you. This is a passport for the journey to Pascha. So you get a stamp for every service that you come to, actually that you have come to since Periodion started. So you get a stamp for being here today. You talk to your Sunday school teachers and they'll give you the stamp. You might actually have some extras upstairs. If your teacher has them, great. Otherwise, we'll give them to you after church. Find me in the coffee room. Everyone, what I suggest, by the way, so you don't forget the passport if you got one, leave it in your car so that you can get it the next morning, because otherwise it's just going to lie there under your bed or something. Not a good idea. Now, story of Samson. I am not going to read it from the Bible because that's going to be nice and complicated. You remember, we've seen all the different judges, and the first judges, they led armies. And the next judge, and then as time went on, God looked at them and said, you keep on winning with an army, so you think that you did it. So he made the army smaller and smaller, until finally we get to Samson, who never leads an army. Samson is all by himself, but he's strong, and he has long hair, and he never drinks wine, and he always eats a special and specific kind of food. So what's Samson doing? Samson's fasting. There we go. Samson is keeping the fast, and he has strength that doesn't come from him. It comes from God. Now, at this point, no, his name is Samson, not Santa. Close. You're listening, I can tell. Samson. Again, everybody say it. Samson. Samson. So, Samson was fighting the Philistines, and he did a lot of things to the Philistines, but one time, well, they were mad at him because he kind of burned some of their fields. So they went and they threatened the men of Judah, who were Israelites, and they said, if you don't hand Samson over, we're going to come in and kill all of you. So the men of Judah went to Samson and they said, so they're threatening us. Will you let us tie you up? Because they knew he was strong. And he said, so long as you don't hurt me, you just tie me up, yes, I'll let you tie me up. So the men of Judah tied him up, and they brought him to the Philistines, and they handed him over all tied up with strong ropes to the Philistines. And as soon as the Philistines had him, then he broke the ropes, and he looked on the ground, and he saw a donkey skeleton, and he grabbed the jawbone of the thing. That was the only weapon he had, and he killed hundreds and thousands of the Philistines. Okay? So Samson was strong, right? So he was a perfect hero and like a saint, right? Who's read the story? So, Samson had a weakness, didn't he? What was the weakness? Well, that was part of it. He had the long hair, and if you cut his hair, his strength would go away, but he had a problem. He had a temptation that he went through. I heard someone say it. Samson liked girls. Samson liked to spend time with the ladies. And so when he was spending time with Delilah and the Philistines came to him and said, you need to get him to tell you why he is so strong. Well, Delilah convinced him to tell that his hair was a thing that if you cut it, he wouldn't be strong anymore. This is a weird story, right? Okay. But the point of it, setting aside the weird details, is that God gave strength to Samson to use to take care of his people. God gave strength to Samson to use in a specific way. A specific way God wanted Samson to use his strength. Samson used that strength to do other things. Right? And so Samson lost his strength. This is what happened. Samson was supposed to keep the fast all the time, but he stopped doing that because he was enjoying himself. And so he ended up imprisoned and tied up and a slave to the Philistines. They had him push the mill around and grind their grain for them, like an animal. But his hair was growing back. And more important than his hair, his trust in God was growing back. So when they had him on display, he was tied up between two pillars in the middle of the big house. You know this story, right? Let me tell it. And his hair was long, and all of the Philistines were there having a party. Samson did what? Did he say, thank you, God, that my hair has grown back and I'm strong again, now I'm going to bring down the house? No. He said, God, please give me my strength back so that I can do what you called me to do. And then he got his strength back. We think to ourselves it was because his hair grew back, but that's not the case. God gave him his strength. And with that strength, he delivered the people of God. Even though he brought the house down and it smushed everyone who was inside, including him, that's true. So what's the lesson? When you keep the fast, remember it's not just a matter of legalistically keeping the fast. You have to actually pray to God and ask him for strength. Otherwise, you don't get any strength. And remember that strength only comes from God. Yes? Well, we already finished talking about Joshua. That's true. That was Joseph, though. So, Bridgie, let's talk about this in coffee hour, okay? Because I can answer all sorts of questions there. For now, remember it's important to fast and to pray, because these are the things we learned from Samson. The lesson is not all the boys should grow their hair long. Okay? With this in mind, let's stand up and let's take communion.